My wife cheated on me with a young coworker of hers and mocked me for being a stay-at-home dad. So, I confronted her, but she just mocked me again. Now, she's begging me to stop the divorce because she's about to lose everything.
Hey there, I, a 34-year-old male, have been married to my wife, a 38-year-old female, for 7 years, and we celebrated our anniversary just 2 weeks ago.
I met her through a friend 9 years ago, and after dating for 2 years, we got married. We also have a 3-year-old son. On the day of our anniversary, 2 weeks back, we had a bunch of people over, including my wife's coworker. This coworker, probably in his mid-20s, was constantly hanging around my wife and refused to let her speak to anyone without accompanying her. I thought that was kind of weird, but when I pulled my wife aside and just asked her about it, she told me that it was nothing too crazy and he just looked up to her as a mentor. I believed her and didn't question it further. However, that very night, I saw a text pop up on her phone from this coworker of hers while she was putting our son to sleep. It was kind of late, and I was a little curious to know what work-related queries he could have at this hour, especially after spending all this time at our house. And I was maybe also a little suspicious since he was a young and attractive man who seemed to be very interested in my wife, so I decided to check out the text. I knew her password, thankfully, since she never bothered to change it, and it was easy to unlock her phone. I went through their chats, hoping for work-related topics, but was shocked to find at least 2 months' worth of flirtatious texts and plans for dates. I felt sick going through all of it, knowing that this woman was currently with our son in the next room, and we just spent the day celebrating the 7th year of our marriage. There were even some late-night texts, which meant that she'd been texting him while laying right beside me some days. I was in shock but did some quick thinking and decided to take a couple of screenshots of those texts and send them to my own number as proof. After that, I kept her phone aside and decided to confront her about it once our son was asleep. She came back to our room, and that's when I showed her what I found on her phone without even wasting a second, and asked her what that was all about. I thought that she'd try to deny it or at least get defensive, but she didn't do any of that and was just very nonchalant about the whole thing. She said that it was just a fling and I shouldn't bother myself too much about it since she's still with me. I was so taken aback that I hardly knew what to say to that. She continued speaking and told me that this was not even the only time that she cheated on me but had only been caught once and that I shouldn't take it to heart because after working so hard for so long, she deserves to have some fun as well and let off some steam, as if she was talking about playing video games and not freaking cheating on her husband of 7 years, whom she even happens to have a son with. I told her that this was unacceptable and that I was going to leave her now that I knew what had been going on behind my back. By then I was screaming at her since I just couldn't keep calm anymore, but she only laughed in my face and asked me where exactly I was going to go if I did leave her because I was a stay-at-home dad and didn't really have my own money. That was a particularly low blow, given that she'd been the one to persuade me to quit my job when our son was born. She'd convinced me that she earned well enough to run the house and would work even harder to bring home a substantial sum, and I could just focus on taking care of the house and raising our baby. I'd been skeptical but naive as well and trusted her wholeheartedly, so I quit my job, and since then, I've been a stay-at-home dad. Back then, I'd never even imagined that she'd be throwing it in my face someday. We argued for a couple more minutes, where she kept saying that there was nothing wrong with her cheating on me since she was a working woman. And it wasn't fair to her that she constantly had to be bogged down by her husband and son all the time. I couldn't even try and make sense of whatever she was saying because, truth be told, it didn't. If she was so tired of her responsibilities, then she shouldn't have gotten married to me in the first place or had a son. And even after she cheated, she should have at least had the decency to own up to it and apologize. But here she was, trying to pretend that this was a normal thing to do. She'd thrown away almost a decade of being together over fun, and I just couldn't understand how she didn't see anything wrong with that. I finally realized that there was no point in trying to argue with her or even pretending that this marriage could be saved when she said I was a stay-at-home dad and this is what I deserved. So I needed to just suck it up like everyone else and turn a blind eye to whatever I find. Without a word more, I packed some of my clothes and toiletries and my son's clothes as well, while she simply watched me and refused to say anything to stop me. Then in the middle of the night, I booked a cab and left. I was hurt and angry, and by the time I got into the cab with my son, who was half asleep, I was crying so hard that I could barely see anything. She didn't try to stop me or even ask about our son and just let me leave. It was incredibly difficult to make that decision, but I'm glad that I did it and left her. I did have some money saved back from when I used to work, but, thankfully, my friend, whom I've been living with, has absolutely refused to let me pay for anything and has been taking care of me like a brother. He and I used to go to the same college back home, but weren't friends then. We only reconnected once we learned that we were now living just a few blocks away from each other. And he became a source of comfort and a reminder of home in this new, unfamiliar city. And right now, he's my only friend and my most important one as well. That night, when I landed at his doorstep with my son and sobbing like a baby, he took me in without any question. And after I explained the situation to him through tears, he was furious and promised me that I'd be totally fine. Within 3 days, he contacted one of the best family lawyers, who happened to be a family friend of his, and I filed for divorce. The two of them said that they'd ensure I get what I deserve as a settlement, and that's what they've been doing. Because of her infidelity, my wife is about to lose thousands of dollars as compensation for our house, her cars, and all the expensive assets that she owns. She's also liable to pay me alimony and child support, which adds up to a huge amount. My wife's position and salary are quite high, so she most certainly can afford it. However, a couple of days ago, she called me up in tears and practically begged me to stop the proceedings or at least be a little considerate about the settlement. She wanted to talk about this with me personally and tried to come to an agreement before the next meeting since she thought that claiming the house and her car was unfair since she'd worked hard for it all. And I knew about it. She said that she had invested a lot of time, money and hard work into building this life for herself. And while she was ready to pay alimony and child support, she just wanted me to rethink my demands since it seemed too much. I found it very ironic that this woman, who hadn't thought about the time and effort that I'd invested in our marriage even once before cheating on me, was now begging me to rethink my demands and take her feelings into consideration. She hadn't apologized for cheating on me either, and I could already tell that her tears weren't real and were only meant to stir some sympathy in me. I told her that she could go to hell for all I cared, and I'd make sure that I walk away with everything that she is since as a stay-at-home dad who made life easier for her. This is what I deserve. And it's not a lie either. Back in the initial years of our marriage, she was always too exhausted from working overtime. And I was not just working at my own job. I was also doing all the work at home. It was only a few years that she was promoted. And even then, I was the one taking care of everything at home and raising our son single-handedly. I was never appreciated for any of it. And she just took it all for granted. But she's going to know what I was worth now. But a part of me feels bad that I'm taking away so much of what she's built. I guess that's because I was with her every step of the way and knew how hard she worked to get where she is today. I'm not sure if I'm really entitled to it and feel weird about making her cry even though she did the same to me. My friend has reassured me several times that there's nothing wrong with what I'm doing, and while I can still choose to not ask for her properties and assets, it shouldn't be because she's guilt-tripping me by crying on the phone. AITA for trying to take away everything my wife's bought over the years in the divorce settlement, after she confessed to having cheated on me multiple times throughout the course of our marriage. Update 1. I decided not to change my list of demands. I read every single response that I got from you folks, and while there were a few sympathizing with my wife, the majority believe that I'm totally entitled to whatever I'm asking for since she's the one who cheated on me in spite of having a son with me and even mocked me for being a stay-at-home dad when it was actually her who forced me into that role in the first place. So yes, I don't think I'm being too harsh. And for the ones asking, if she ends up agreeing to the terms, then I'll be walking away with the house that she used to live in, a vacation home in Cabo, her cars, both luxury cars, several watches that she owns, and of course, a huge sum as compensation. I don't know when or how this is going to happen, but well, I'm just hoping that things work out in my favor. Even if they don't, she'll still have to pay me child support and alimony since she owes me that much. I haven't told her yet about my decision, but I don't think I owe her that either. I might not tell her at all. Update 2. My wife caught on and realized that her phone calls and texts did nothing to melt me or change my mind, and I am in fact not going to back off. So last night she decided to call me up and call me every derogatory name in her book and said that she'd always known that I was a gold digger. This is really funny to me because when I met her, there wasn't much gold to dig. I told her that no matter what she said to me at this point, it didn't matter since she'd lost her chance to apologize and make things right with me long back, pretty much the day I left. And even after that, she didn't have the decency to even pretend that she regretted what she'd done to me, so I had no reason to take pity on her and let her have what she wanted. She sounded like she wanted to argue some more, so I hung up before she could say anything else because, honestly, I wasn't interested. Whatever she has to say to me will be said in front of our lawyers, and outside of that, I don't owe her a conversation at all. She's made it very obvious that she doesn't care about me or our son, since she didn't even try to fight for his custody, which was a shock to me. I'd always thought that if not for my sake, she'd never do anything to break up our family for the sake of our son, which has been a reassuring thought whenever I heard about other wives cheating on their husbands. But now I see that I was wrong. My son doesn't particularly care about whatever's happening, which is obviously fine since he's just 3, and he's used to his mom being gone for prolonged periods of time for work. But he does occasionally ask about her, and it breaks my heart knowing that she doesn't care about him as much as I thought she did. It's been almost a month since I left, and I obviously do miss my old life and constantly feel like I'm being a burden on my friend, despite his constant reassurance. My parents are also trying to help me out financially until I find a job or all of this comes to an end since I'm going through a particularly tough spot right now. My friend says that I'm not to worry about the finances since he's loaded, but even then, it feels weird to just live off of someone, especially after what my wife said about me being a stay-at-home dad. That stung. I guess that one comment just got under my skin since I had been a career man who'd given it all up for my family, and it felt like it just went in vain. I just hope I'm out of this mess soon. Update 3. So, 1 week has passed since the last update, and I've learned that my wife truly is the most disgusting and vile human to ever exist. She's trying to make me out to be an alcoholic and a lying cheater as well. She and her lawyer have resorted to dirty tricks and deception to ensure that I don't get anything at all out of this divorce now since I've refused to. They produced photos of me with our neighbor, a young woman in her early 20s, who moved in a couple of months back. She was a fashion photographer and lived by herself, so she'd often ask me for help when it came to cooking since she'd often mess up recipes. She bought a new camera a few months back and since she needed a subject she asked me to help her out and I obliged. We clicked a couple of shots in my backyard and it was a perfectly innocent and platonic thing. I even showed the photos to my wife afterward and she seemed impressed with them as well. But now, she's made it out to seem like some perverted and weird thing between the two of us, and had accused me of having an affair with our neighbor. She'd cooked up great detailed stories of how she'd often noticed the woman dropping by unannounced and leaving after an hour or so whenever she wouldn't be home, and the neighbors could vouch for that as well. She knew about these visits since I'd never lied to my wife, and she also knew that she'd only drop by for help with cooking or food since she was trying to learn. But now, of course, she was using it to her advantage and making me seem like a cheater. It was just so sick. And on top of that, she claimed that I had a drinking problem as well, so she'd already spent a ton of money on me, and I didn't deserve any more of it either. She claimed that I'd been lying about how I supported her throughout, and definitely was entitled to whatever she had because I'd been nothing but a liability so far. And she was glad to be rid of me, but wouldn't let me walk away with so much since I didn't deserve anything. I couldn't believe that she was stooping so low, but then again, that's really who she was. And I'd just been late to realize what kind of a person I'd been married to. I guess I'll just have to get more people, namely my neighbors, involved to prove that I'm not a cheater because I'm not like her. And most people who know me know that I hardly ever drink unless it's a social event and everyone's drinking as well, so the alcoholism claims will be pretty easy to disprove. I'm just sick and tired of this mess now. I want her to leave me alone for good, honestly. Update 4. Almost 3 weeks have passed since the last time we met, where she accused me of cheating on her and also of being an alcoholic. I was able to get some of my friends and my neighbors to give testimony in my favor, and they told me about how my wife had approached them earlier before me. But they told her that they weren't going to lie to cover up for her, which really made me feel grateful for the relationships that I made there as a stay-at-home dad. At least some people valued me, so that was nice. Anyway, I was able to produce enough proof against her claims at yesterday's meeting, and it really felt like the settlement was going to work out in my favor after all. I guess she just couldn't stand it, knowing that she was going to lose, so she decided to get my friend involved. Around half an hour ago, my friend received a call from an unknown number and he had a feeling that it might be related to me, so he recalled the call and thank God he did. It was my wife asking my friend to kick me out and speak against me at the next meeting so that I don't get anything. She offered him a huge sum of money as well to buy him out, but lucky for me, my friend isn't a sellout. I could hardly believe that she was willing to go to such lengths just to avoid the consequences of her own actions. She's such a low life. I can hardly even believe that she's trying to do this not just to me but her own son as well. If my friend had kicked me out, our son would be out as well and we'd both be in trouble. I had half a mind to ring her and give her a piece of my mind, but my friend calmed me down and convinced me to let it go since there was no point in trying to talk to her and it would just be wasting my own breath. I'm just so furious right now that I could actually slap her senseless. It's disgusting for me to even think that I spent so much of my time and energy on this woman. I tried to distract myself by going through jobs online since I desperately needed one. With or without the settlement, I want to make something of myself, and I desperately want to go back to work right now so that I can be independent again. I've already applied at a few places, and hopefully my skills will be sharp enough to make things work. I'm running dangerously low on the money I've saved, and I absolutely cannot afford to go broke right now, at least not until the settlement comes through. Hopefully, it'll be done and dusted by the next meeting. Until then, I'm just keeping my fingers crossed. Update 5. There is just one day to go for the final meeting, and my wife showed up at my friend's house to talk to me today. Initially, my friend was hesitant to even let her in, but I reassured him that I was ready to talk. Moreover, I was curious to know what she had to say for herself after everything that had happened. She looked dejected and upset, and I sort of did feel bad for her. But then I remembered whatever had happened these past few months, and all of it vanished. She didn't say much, just said that she was here to make one last plea to me. She apologized for every single thing she had done, right from cheating on me to breaking my heart over and over again, and trying to turn people against me. She said she was being a total greedy a-hole and she realized that now. All she wanted was for me to spare the house. I could take away everything else if I wanted to and she was fine with that. But that house held a lot of sentimental value for her. I told her that I would think about it, but I couldn't guarantee anything. She thanked me and then left. It was weird sitting with her and having a civilized conversation with her after so long without a lawyer, but at least it gave me some sense of closure. And maybe I will let her keep the house, since I don't ever plan on moving back there. I think I might move into my friend's house permanently and rent his upstairs unit or something, since he has been talking about it. Anyway, I'm happy that it is all coming to an end now. Update 6. Wow, it's been a while since I posted. So yeah, it's done. The divorce is finalized and I own quite a lot now. It's almost surreal, but I don't feel any difference right now. I'm just relieved that it's all done with. As I'd said, I changed the terms of the settlement last minute and let my wife have the house, but everything else went to me. It did make a significant dent in her net worth, but it's nothing she won't be able to recover from eventually. It might take her a couple of months, but she'll be fine, so I don't feel too guilty about it. As of today, I'm divorced and thrilled about it as well. Right now, my only plan is to get back on my feet as soon as possible, and by that I mean find a job. I have been in talks with a few companies, but I think I might just start my own business. My friend is now my permanent housemate as well, since I've paid him 6 months of rent and have moved in with him. Now I'm finally done with my divorce and my wife is now my ex-wife. This chapter of my life is finally over. Thank God for that. That's all for today. Make sure to like, subscribe and comment any advice of the op.